That's
Man,
that's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said that's that good old church mind going. Song
Yeah,
over, we move on to the next segment.
there we go. There we go. There we go. All hearts and minds are clear, as they say. Well, man, last month we got off to a roaring start with our uh, Christian Leaders Book Club, and just thankful for this venue and this space. And I know that we may have some new people on as well that are jumping in with us. First of all, man, let's check in. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Had a good January. February is going well so far. It's Black History Month. Can't be mad at that. I'm going to a program tonight with the wife, so we are good, man. We're doing well. What about you?
Doing well, doing incredibly well. Very thankful for just spaces like this. Thankful for our lane that we're able to get in and thrive in, and just thankful that we're able to really engage the minds of people, but also the hearts of people. And
Mhm.
to be
Mm.
able to do that every day, man, is just a joy. I was telling somebody yesterday that, it really is. Um, I don't want to call it a miracle, but it really is something amazing when your entire life can be centered around doing what you love.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't take that for granted. So I'm
Yep.
thankful, man.
Yep. Yep.
Thankful. We last month was all about personal development with the book from Carrie Newhoff. And for those that are on the email or those that are with us live now, at your best, you can actually go back and look at that recording. We generally won't send the recording immediately after the session. We'll wait a little bit and then send it out. But if you got the email, you should have gotten the recording session from At Your Best with Carrie Newhoff. And man, I mean, even some very practical takeaways that we had with that discussion last month, which is, I think it was incredible.
Mm.
This month, it's an entirely different conversation.
A whole nother ball game, brother. You
The
said we're
whole,
gonna we're gonna hit him with a jab the first time, but now this one's gonna be a right hook.
yeah. Oh man, it's a right hook, it's a left jab, it's a body shot, it's a hit to the chin,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
got to sit down and get your life together kind of book.
Mm. Mm.
And I'll be honest. Um, I am I'm an advocate of reparations, but I
Mm.
think that the way that we talk about it in common culture
Mm-hmm.
is reduced to just passing out a check.
Mm.
So I was intrigued coming into the book, man, how are we getting ready to read an entire book on this and what is
Yeah.
the way we're gonna approach this? But
Mm.
after reading the book,
Mm.
it's probably one of the best books I've ever read. Like,
Mm.
it's I mean, to me, just the masterful treatment of a subject, the way that they laid it out, you could tell that they did their homework.
Yeah.
They addressed all of not just the ends of the tree limbs, but they
Mm.
went to the root.
Yeah, for sure. For
you,
sure.
you from Georgia, so you get that phrase.
They went all the way down to the root. For sure.
Those of us, for those of you that are watching and you don't know what we're talking about the root.
Yes. For y'all Northerners.
Yeah, underneath the surface, right? So yeah, man. So let's jump into it. I see we got a bunch of people online as well. So thank y'all for being on. Our approach to this is that we're gonna really just kind of talk about some of our key takeaways, big ideas, impactful quotes.
Yeah.
Uh, and then we'll land the plane today by answering the question, why does this book even matter, especially the
Mm.
leaders? And many of you all may be leading in various spaces. You're not just in ministry in the sense
Mm.
of being in full-time vocational ministry. Let me say it that way, because if you're a Christian, all of us are in full-time ministry.
Mm. Mm.
Some of you are in legal spaces or housing or accounting, finance, education, even things of that nature. Some of y'all are taking this time together with your lunch. So, yeah. So if you've got comments and questions, feel free to put those in the chat. And as we look at those, if it's something that we think we want to bring and engage with you more, we'll bring you up on stage and kind of go from there. So, yeah, Pastor John, where do you want to start, man, with this? Because we could spend the next 6 hours
Yep.
and
Yep.
still have a lot to work through. So
So I think a good starting point would be this idea that they lay out pretty soon in the beginning around white supremacy. Because,
Yeah,
that's a buzzword in today's culture. And if
yeah,
you ask five people to identify or define white supremacy, you'll get five different definitions.
yeah,
And so I think the thing that really was kind of a key insight for me was that the most enduring effect of white supremacy, they say, is found in theft. This idea of theft. And they mentioned three types of theft. And it goes back to your point. For many people, when they say reparations, they only think about wealth.
yeah,
But they say, man, we need to broaden the scope of what has been stolen in the first place.
yeah,
There are three things that have been stolen, right? Truth,
yeah,
power,
yeah,
and wealth.
yeah,
And in order to have true reparations, you have to repair all three.
yeah,
So I thought that that was just a good way for us to begin because this idea of theft, I mean, as African descended people, we know what theft is
yeah,
and we
yeah,
know what it looks like. But that idea of the theft of truth is something, man, that is really powerful, especially in Christian spaces too.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting, those that are on here that may not know me personally, I live in Florida. Um,
Mm,
there is, and my wife is, professionally is in education. So it has been interesting to me to watch the unfolding of this very malicious attack on truth, uh,
mm,
and even the attempt to try to silence truth, right?
mm,
So I think inherent in the book,
mm,
um, one of the things that I walked away with, to your point about this whole notion of theft, that man, reparations is not just writing a check to people. That
mm,
that a part of the conversation of reparations is the admitting of truth,
mm.
and the acknowledgement of what is truth.
Yeah.
Because if I can get you, um, intentionally to not only be distracted
Mm.
by the fight that I'm putting up for truth,
Yep.
you won't even be fighting the lies. You'll be fighting the fight.
That's right. Yeah.
Does it make sense what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so we get pulled into the fight, and so we're mad about even the fight without even addressing the fact that the fight is about truth versus lying.
And now you out here shadow boxing the wrong enemy.
You out here bewildered because you're fighting the fight versus fighting, and just saying like,
Mm,
hey y'all, rather than focusing on a politician, an elected official, a policy writer, whoever else that wants to ban books and
mm,
whatever else, or even use blanket coded words to get people distracted and tie into a base and the media and whatever else, rather than
mm.
talk about that, let's just talk about the truth. Here is the truth. Here is
Yeah.
what happened, right?
Yeah.
And because nobody can argue against truth. And so that's, I
Mm,
think, right, that the
mm,
notion, and even when I read that, I think, I want to reference where we are so people, if they're tracking on with us, you jump right into chapter 2, I think, uh,
mm-hmm.
about seeing the
Yeah.
reality of white supremacy.
Yeah.
So, I think, so as I'm reading through the book and I get to that notion of theft, man, the
Mm,
way that they unpack that, again, it was just, and I'm probably going to overuse this phrase today because I one of the sentiments that I had from the book was, that was masterful. I felt like I was sitting in a
mm,
courtroom. You'll appreciate this as a lawyer. I felt like I was sitting in the courtroom watching a defense attorney surgically just unpack their case.
yeah. Yep. No, I agree, man. I agree. And they talk about two types of theft too, identity and history, which
Yep.
is, I mean, was just amazing. Like, and we see this play out every day in culture, man. Like where when you steal one's identity, then
Yep.
you begin to um demonize, animalize, and they say infantilize people.
Well, hold on. That's chapter 3. Let's back up for a second because
Yeah.
you just jumped to chapter 3 because I Chapter 3, I think, was my favoriteest chapter. That's not a
Not
word.
not the favoritist.
Yeah. Let's back up though for a second. Seriously, I think
Okay.
so. You name white supremacy, right?
Mhm.
That they give a great treatment to that.
Yep.
And listen, everybody that's listening in, if you're able to comment in the chat and to provide commentary on this, feel free. Please feel free to comment in the chat and all of that. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear from you. And even if you got questions about things, there's a feature here on this mechanism for you to put some Q&A in there. I think this book challenged others to slow down for a moment and acknowledge, and the two phrases, white supremacy as pervasive and enduring,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Like when you think about that, to me, this was one of those things that for many people of color, we know it, but to see it written in a historical approach.
Yep.
When I finished chapter 2, Pastor John, I literally had to put the book down and just process for a couple of days. But like, so what does that mean now? And I don't know if everybody has this same approach as well, but for me, I had to guard my heart.
Yeah.
Reading through this book.
Yeah. I see Gatewood raise his hand. We're bringing people on stage too, right?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says the chat is disabled. It should be enabled, but we'll play around with it for a moment here. Keep going, Pastor John.
So I think that the idea that white supremacy in our country is original. They mentioned that. I know you mentioned enduring, and you mentioned it was going to be pervasive, but they also say it's original. Like this actually started at the founding of the nation.
Yes, sir.
So for someone, a candidate, to stand up and say, "Hey, America's never been a racist country," and then to double down on it, that's the part, and triple down. Like you just gonna continue to trot it out like it's the truth, when the fact of the matter is, from its establishment, it has been at the very core root of who our country is. And I think here's the thing, people who are Caucasian, who are white, feel like they have to identify with white supremacy because the adjective is them. So it's like, I'm white, so now you're calling me a white supremacist and you don't know who I am in my story. And now I gotta defend our country because now you've attacked my quote unquote whiteness. Because I'm connected to supremacy.
Wow. That's so good.
And so that's why a lot of people are trying to figure out how they can skirt around this idea that whiteness was the default setting of the US from its foundation. Like out of the box, when you take it out of the box, you ain't got to tweak no settings. When you turn it on, it's white.
Yeah. Eugene says, I'm in now. Okay, good. Everybody should be in now. So hopefully that works.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right. And again, the thing that I mean, one of the points for me that is so salient. We're not making this up. This happened.
No, not making it up at all.
There's documented proof of everything that's being said. So why are people so scared of truth?
Because it's the idiom is true. The truth hurts. Yeah. It hurts.
Yeah.
Listen, it's easier for black and brown people to talk about this than white people because now I'm in the category that you're attacking, as opposed to me realizing that this has been part of the history and the culture of our country. And just because I'm white doesn't mean I cannot actually acknowledge the fact that this has happened in our country.
Yeah.
And I think we can't get to reparations because we're too busy defending our whiteness.
Yeah. The last section of chapter 2 says, seeing ourselves. I'm going to put a link to the Frederick Douglass speech in the chat as well,
Hmm.
because I think it's worth, if people haven't read that,
Mhm.
you know, what to the slave is the 4th of July. I think to the people that haven't read that, I think it's worth them, you know, reading and kind of just sitting with that address.
Mhm.
Because if they haven't read it, I think, you know, even them referencing that in the book, I went back and reread it again, and it was, man, it was just so powerful.
Mm.
Even to know that one of the points that I sort of made to myself is that there are always significant ways for us to protest something and
Mm.
call attention to something. So the fact that he even did the speech on July 5th versus July 4th
Yeah.
was a sign of protest.
Yeah. Yep.
Sign of protest.
Yep. Yep.
So seeing ourselves, he says, Douglas's invitation to his hearers that day, much like the sanitation workers who followed him a century later, was an invitation to see perhaps for the first time what America is as a nation and who we are as a people. It was an
Mm.
invitation to see ourselves, to see that both we and the culture we share have been profoundly disordered by the reality of racism.
Here's the question though,
Yeah.
Pastor Christopher. How do we invite people to see? Douglas did it. King did it. In 2024, what does the invitation to see look like in our divisive country? And that's a question. I mean, people who are here, if y'all want to chime in on that for sure, chime in on it in the chat. We'll definitely see that. Said media.
Treva says media, TV, and plays.
Ooh, I want to talk about media, TVs, and plays for sure.
Okay, let's circle back to that for just a minute. So
Okay.
now I want Treva, if you're saying, and if you're able to come on camera, we'd love to invite you up on stage for dialogue on this, because I'm curious if she's saying that that's one of the ways that we can get people to see.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm.
Because if so, like, I wonder if we are so siloed as a nation
Mm.
that trying to get people to see by media, TVs, and plays will even get the right people to see it.
Hmm. Good
Tyler
question.
Perry, and I know that there's a lot of people who may not be fans of his for various reasons, but I think the point that I'm making, I think, is salient. Tyler Perry, he had this documentary basically done of him, and I forget what his mother's name is right now, but it's named after his mother's son. So,
Mm.
you know, if his mom was Brittany, it would be Brittany's son, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the name, but I'm forgetting the name of the thing right now. But he says something, he tells a story in there about the CEO of Lionsgate.
Mm.
And he said that when he made their first pitch to Lionsgate, that the CEO didn't know who he was.
Mm.
But one of the team members, one of the vice presidents or some higher up of Lionsgate said, "Oh yeah, a lot of people know who Tyler Perry is."
Mm.
He said, go out to the office area and just ask if they know who Tyler Perry is." And he went out
Mm.
to all the Black people, and almost every Black person was like, "Yeah, we know who Tyler Perry is. Yeah, we know who
Mm.
Tyler Perry is." Right?
Mm.
So then the CEO says, "Well, pull his numbers, pull some of his stats." Maxine's son, thank you, Treva. Pull some of his stats and his, you know, income from plays and movies and whatever else he's been doing, TV shows, all of that.
Mm.
CEO was blown away.
Right.
I say that to say that you can be crushing it,
Mm.
but still there's a huge segment of America that may not even know who you are.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyways,
Yep.
just making a point. Treva, are you able to come on camera or come off of mute?
Definitely want to hear from you since you said TV, media,
Yes,
play.
sir. Trevar is my name. Thank you for having me.
Trevar,
Sorry,
sorry.
Treva. My apologies,
Yes,
sir.
sir. You're good. You're good. I can't start my video for some reason. It says unable to start.
Oh, we can
All
fix
good.
that. Hold on for a minute. We can fix that. Give me just 1 second. Uh,
And then Kendra put something in the chat too about something that's happening in Oklahoma. I think that's pretty dope.
okay. It should allow you to. It should allow you to. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Travar just got booted.
He's gonna get it back. While we're getting him on, in Oklahoma, a young lady has started a program called Black History Saturdays, where the community is invited to come and learn actual history that is being taken from schools. They have actual professors teaching students of all ages. Yeah, that's happening here in Florida as well. There's a number of churches that have actually started Black History Saturdays, essentially, or the Black History Book Tour, meeting at libraries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's good. Travar, I'm sorry, man. I don't know what I'm doing wrong here in terms of the video. So just go ahead and chat it up with us, and we'll figure it out on this end. Try to figure something out.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Pastor Chris, Pastor John. I follow you guys on social media. Just to answer your question, I just threw that out there really because I saw about an hour of Maxine's son as well. And I just saw how powerful Tyler Perry's plays were and how he was really connecting with the people. And I say for today, we kind of got to like really not necessarily just have plays, but we got to do the same thing. Frederick Douglass and King, they were very good at what at being able to communicate. And I think that's what draw people, especially for Frederick Douglass on both sides of the world. And how he was able to accomplish great feats before the age of 30. Everybody can't do that. And so you got to just use your voice, plays and media. That's what I just think to really just reach the masses, do whatever we can.
That's
good, man. That's good. Appreciate you, man. Hey,
Yeah.
so I just wanted to kind of piggyback off that a little bit because now we're in the age of new media where the threshold or the entry point for media has really been demolished by social media. So you got all these influencers. Listen, I saw a guy play in the All-Star basketball game who I didn't even know existed, and he has 80-something million followers.
I had several that I didn't even know existed. Keep going.
But this idea of influence these days is completely different. You know what I mean? Used to be you had to get in, there was an end to get into Hollywood. And for us, black and brown people, here's what that meant, to be honest with you, historically. That meant mammies, that meant thugs and gangsters, that meant films that were going to portray us in typical type of ways. And so now we have an opportunity to be able to recapture the truth through various forms of media. But at the same time, we've seen the abuse of social media too. So I think there's an opportunity there, but then there's still also a threat because people are going to see some of the things that are happening on social media and still align us with some of those stereotypes. And it's like, man, how do you get people to see the real history? Because let me tell you, that's not sexy stuff. Walking people through Black history, it ain't sexy. And in today's culture, you got to be viral, you got to be sexy. And to have people to really sit back and think through and take in history, it takes some real intentionality, Pastor Christopher. It really does.
Yeah, and I think the other part of that, it fights against the narrative of the day in terms of attention span, right? Because you can't just settle for, a 2-minute clip and think that you know the whole story from a 2-minute clip.
That's right.
It requires for you to sit back, to actually think, to have a longer attention span. I don't know why it showed up on my screen just then, but it's all good.
That's a new Apple, man. That new Apple update does it to me all the time.
Does it? I found out yesterday that I actually have confetti. Have you figured out the confetti
Yes,
too?
man. You do some type of celebration and it starts just doing weird stuff.
Like that. But to your point, have you had the privilege, Pastor John, yet of going to the Black History Museum, National Black History Museum in DC?
We're going this summer. I was going to talk about that. So we're doing that with the group of high school kids we've been taking around the country. So
you haven't been yet?
Nope.
Okay. So here is my my hack for you. My hack for you is I think the museum actually opens at 9 or 9:30 or 10 or something like that. Be in line by 8. That's the first hack.
Mhm.
The second hack is plan to be there for at least the majority of the
The
day.
whole day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number 3, start at the bottom. Don't start at the top. Start at the bottom. Skip the Oprah exhibit for the beginning, because you can come back and do that at the end. Okay.
Mhm.
Bottom and work your way up, because the first three floors are going to wreck your life.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's why I bring that up, though. I bring it up because I've been like 5 times. My family and I, my whole family has been like 3. My wife and I have been 5. And each time it's been interesting to me because the people that are in the museum that don't look like you and I, their emotional response to what they see is incredibly intriguing to me,
Mhm.
because it's new information for them.
Yep. Yep.
It is radically new information for them. And my heart, honestly, my heart goes out. And you know, we're not in the business of trying to shame people in any way here. But like in real time right now, we know like there's, you know, political candidates that are literally saying, you know, redefining racism, redefining slavery, redefining how people viewed slavery and whether or not it was beneficial for Blacks and things of that nature. And it's interesting to me because I have a low tolerance for it, because some of it is diabolical, I think. But in some ways, and please hear me out on this, I'm empathetic at their cluelessness, because for some of them, they've never even been exposed to this truth.
Yep. Yep. It's the exposure that matters, man. Big time. I see Gatewood said gatekeepers have been kind of removed, power shifted to the people. Now we are fighting algorithms. Even when we are sharing good content, is being limited with new media. You said a mouthful there, brother.
Yes, he
I don't know
did.
if I told you this the other day, Christopher. You know, the videos I spend all the time on get like 600
You
views.
sent me the video. You
Oh
sent me
yeah,
the video.
yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right. And then I just randomly shot a video the other day, 20,000, 25,000 views. Like what? Come on, man. I didn't even spend time on that one. But algorithm is real. It's real. It is real and true. But to your point, man, it's definitely something that we got to consider when it comes to people who just might be ignorant. Because some people just might be ignorant. And here's what contributed to their ignorance, man. The fact that in school they only got the candy coated version of any type of history.
Yeah.
So how do you expect them to seek out stuff that's in the back of the library or not even in their library at all?
Yeah.
So in some ways, yes, you have to be empathetic. Then on the other side of the spectrum, there are people that know but just don't care.
Yeah. Yep.
Just flat out don't care.
I think that's a salient question, bro. How do we get people to see? I don't. We could stay stuck there. I know that we got the rest of the book to kind of walk through, but I think that's very powerful, and I would challenge everybody. Trevor, are you good with your comments right now, brother? If so, we're gonna move.
Trevor.
Yes, sir. I'm good.
Trevor. Sorry, did I say it wrong?
Yeah. All good.
All right. Thank you, Trevor. And if you want to come back up, you're welcome to, as we continue to have this discussion. Anybody else, if you want to come up and share something, just indicate that to us in the chat. Let us know, and then we'll bring you up. So let's jump into chapter 3 really quickly, because time is flying here. And I think that's back to the point where you talked about the theft idea, because I think that's significant. You know, he started off by talking about the theft of identity, and that's when the authors got into those 3 things that you were getting ready to talk about, which I think we need to unpack for a moment. So Black animalization, Black demonization, and then Black infantilization, which first of all, let me say, I had to look up infantilization.
You did?
When I looked at when I was reading the book, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know that I know what that is.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, like I should know what this is, but I don't think I've ever heard it in that context. And excuse me, if that says anything about me, y'all, hopefully y'all don't lose respect for me for saying.
No, man, that's one of them. That's one of them LSAT words. So you all good, brother.
Yeah. Let's
But
unpack the three really quickly.
yeah, all three of those, man, are very important for us to understand the history of our country. And the fact that here's the thing, and this goes back all the way back to Genesis, man. This goes back to the Imago Dei. If I can mar the Imago Dei in you in any way,
Yep.
then I can treat you any kind of way.
Yep.
If I can see you as less than and not created in God's image, then I can enslave you with a clear conscience while holding my Bible on Sunday morning.
Absolutely.
And so that's why they said, all right, we got to treat them like animals.
Yep.
We got to write their names next to our goods like they're actually goods to be traded and to be auctioned off.
Yep.
That's why they said we got to make sure we demonize them. That's, I mean, Birth of a Nation. We talk about the movies.
Yep.
Blackface white man raping a white woman as a black man, and the white cavalry comes in and saves this white woman. Listen, I'm gonna be real candid here.
Okay.
Many of us don't want your women. So why nobody? But somehow they had to make sure that they were kind of the white.
Wait a
saviors.
minute.
I'm just saying, Pastor Christopher. I'm just saying. Listen, I ain't mad. No, I know you're a pastor of the multicultural church. I understand that. And listen, I understand that. I love that, but I'm being candid.
Let me just tell you where my mind went to though just then. First of all, it was hilarious. That was a complete curveball. I love you, bro. I was not expecting you to say that, but I'm with it. Okay. But here's where my mind went to, right? Because to your point, this is why we see the surgeries to change the image that looks like what is naturally beautiful.
Come on, man. Come on, Kardashian. They listen to me. It's the truth, man.
We talk about reparations today. We just talked about BBLs and lips and noses.
We talked about getting injections and stuff, man. But it's the truth, man. Because if I can demonize you again, I can treat you any kind of way, and then treat them like kids. Like, man, when you see the stories that are told of what happened on the plantations, even in the Jim Crow South, the fact that they use the word boy for us, for grown men, consistently, regularly, and in the streets in front of your kids.
Yep. So the story about the University of Virginia and the hidden graveyard was significant in the book. Let me read this line because I think it encapsulates what you're saying and the point even about the graveyard.
Yeah.
These three constructions of Black identity, animalization, demonization, and federalization, were created in the service of whiteness to legitimize its cultural, economic, and political supremacy. But this creation, even as it brought diminished notions of Blackness into the world, also took something away. It stole the truth about Black identity and replaced the truth with lies.
That's it, man. That's it.
Oh, gosh.
Not only did they steal our bodies, they stole our truth and replaced it with lies.
Like we are so nervous about you that we're going to do anything we can to try to make you non-existent.
That's it. That's it. Or exist for our economic gain.
I'm not trying to promote any person here or there.
Yeah.
But there's a clip that's been going around recently, and I'm not trying to date this video because I know that this video may live on past the current cultural moment. But there's this video that's going around right now, and it's only like a 1.5-minute clip of Mark Lamont Hill, Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, asking the question, do you realize how scared they are of you?
Mm-hmm.
And he walks through like these quick historical moments that ties into this point here about the the animalization, demonization, and federalization that says, like, you are, if you live up to your heritage,
Mm,
you will be undefeated.
yeah.
And he doesn't mention the UVA situation particularly, but he does say, like, they are so scared of you that they literally burn the records of your parents' and grandparents' graves.
That's right. Yep.
Right. So I'm listening to this clip while I'm reading the book. That UVA story, it wrecked me, bro.
Mm,
It completely wrecked me because I'm like, man, the methodical nature of how they unpacked the campus was built by them. The food was served by them. The paint was painted on by them. The
Yep.
trees were planted by them. The landscaping was done by them. And then you take them and bury them in an unmarked graveyard.
That's right, man. That's right.
I see Brother Porter says the UVA story messed him up too.
Should have messed everybody up. Should have messed everybody up.
Yeah.
That was a lot, man. That was a lot. Mm,
So we see this notion of, the theft of identity. So that's the first one, right?
mhm.
If we were all in the church together right now, let everybody say identity.
I didn't.
Yeah. But then they walk through the theft of history. And we've talked about that already, I think, enough today.
Yeah,
Unpack that, right? The
for sure.
romanticization and the erasure.
Mm,
Then they go through and they then shift to talk about power, which I think,
mhm.
like, if I could just copy chapter 3 and mass produce that out to people, just
Mhm.
this chapter,
Yeah,
it's a game changer.
it's good, man. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
So let's talk about this power for a moment. Because the phrase that I wrote down in one of my notes from that particular section, and this statement kept ringing true in my ears. For some of y'all, this may be the case as well. And I'd love to hear what were y'all's reactions to this conversation around power in chapter number 3, for those of you who had the chance to read the book. But I kept thinking about the quote, power concedes nothing.
Mm,
Power concedes,
mm,
power concedes nothing. I kept thinking about that
mm.
as I walked through this particular chapter. So anything you want to respond to that, Pastor John, at all, in terms of the personal, political, economic power, all of that?
No, I think that seeing that personal political power for me was, I think the most telling story for me, man, was the bank story
Yeah,
alongside the UVA story.
the
Like that,
Freedmen's Bureau.
yeah, just to have black folks put their trust and money into a space only to have it stolen again.
Yep.
It's like, man, how? Who could be so depraved to do something like that? Someone who wants power and wants to keep power.
So very transparent for a moment. When I read the section about the bank, I had an epiphany moment, and I'd never connected the dots in this way. And this is very close to my own story, very, very, very near for me, for my own story. My grandfather, so when I would get out of school, at some point during the first of the month, my grandfather would get his check, he'd go to the bank, he'd cash his check. So, when his check came in the mail, he would immediately go that morning and cash his check. And one of the things that he would do with me for fun is, and for learning, is he would, he has certain increments of bills. So he had hundreds, 50s, 20s, 10s, 5s, 1s, and all of that. And then he would get a certain amount, I think it was like $10 he would get in like broken down change. So dimes, nickels, pennies, et cetera, et cetera. He would lay all of his bills out. This is in his room on his bed. He would lay all of his bills out. And then he would have me to take the money in the right increment. So if, let's just say, his gas bill was $100.50, he would have me take the $100.50 and put it next to the gas bill. I would have to write $100.50 in terms of what he paid, and then put the cash there, and then put it in the envelope. One day we were doing this, and almost like, and I couldn't have been any older than 10. In a flyby statement, he says, "Son, always keep your money close." picks his bed up,
Sir.
and there's this like manila envelope. It had to be a few thousands of dollars in that envelope. And then puts the bed down and never brings the conversation up again.
And now you know why.
When I'm reading the story about the bank, I'm like, this is why. He never, and I got emotional, bro, because he never told me why. He just told me the what.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Like, and he's dead. He's gone. But I'm reading this in the book, and I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me.
That's crazy,
At this
man.
time, he's like in his 60s. He was born in 1905.
Mm.
My grandfather was born in 1905. So this had to be like a part of what's etched in his mind.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it now. Like, this had to be what was like etched in his mind when he lifts his bed up, tells his grandson, who's not even 10, son, always keep your money
Keep
close
your
to you.
money close, man. Wow.
I was
Wow.
blown, bro. Like that's what I'm saying. This book was mind blowing to me.
Mm-hmm.
What class would we have taken in high school that would have told us about the Freedmen's Bureau?
Near one. Near a
I didn't mean
one.
to get emotional, y'all. I'm sorry.
No, man, it is the absolute truth, man. $3 million, man.
Which is a
All,
lot of money at that
a
time.
lot of money. Like
I
they
mean, it's a
put
lot of money now. But I'm
all
just
their
saying,
money and all their trust in this system that not only failed them, but perpetuated the theft again.
so then
And now you know why they hide their money under the mattresses.
so then they make the statement about the president and his policy that then like further says all the way from the top, we're gonna bam, like we're gonna crush you. We're
All the
going
way
to
down.
crush you.
All the way down, bro. All the way down.
Yeah.
That Du Bois quote, we had our moment in the sun
Yes, sir.
and then got crushed back to the ground again.
Yes, sir.
Man,
Yes.
man, I appreciate you for sharing that, bro.
No,
But
man,
it's a reality too for
Yeah.
many of our elders. Yeah.
man, I didn't get emotional. I didn't plan to do that. My
Man,
bad.
listen, they said it's okay in the chat. This is
Oh,
why it's so
yeah.
important to have conversations with our elders. The hidden history is so real and wild. They said, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
And so they appreciate that story, man. So appreciate you for sharing that and for being transparent in that. Cause it like you don't like books like this open up things historically for you when you like, oh, that's why granddaddy did this. This is why there's that trauma that's still there because man, this theft has been just repetitive.
Yeah.
And in so many areas in our lives that our ancestors made it through it, but they still carried the pain with them.
Yeah.
And that pain perpetuated their practices. And
Yeah.
so we're like, I don't know why daddy don't put money in the bank.
Yeah.
Or grandpa don't put money in the bank. I went and put it in the bank the other day. And it's
Yeah.
like, now you know why.
Yeah. You know, it's really hard to have these conversations and not at least bring the conversation about politics in. And I'm not trying to advocate for either party because I think both are trash. I'll go on record as saying that.
All the way trash.
I think both are just flat out trash. And I think the figureheads and key leaders in both parties don't give us a lot of options.
Mm.
But I'll say this, at least at this juncture in terms of the conversation, to me, it is these stories like this, conversations that we're having right now, truths that are in this book. I don't think in many ways that either party understands.
Mm.
For Christians who are also African American have such a conundrum politically.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because by and large, there may be things about a particular platform that we might agree with.
Mm-hmm.
But the moment that we see virtue signaling
That's
that
right.
back into our culture, the history that we've heard, that we do know about our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, forefathers, there becomes this cognitive dissonance that says, oh no, we've seen that story before, and you may have a different phrase for it now, different words and different posture for it now. It may have been written in newspapers before, but now it is in the algorithm now. like we know what that is. We see what that is.
Yep.
That creates a problem.
Mm. Mm. That's good, man. Yep.
Yeah. Creates a problem. All right, let's get back on track. Not that we've been off track, but
No, it's been good, man. It's been good.
so this whole idea of the theft of wealth.
Mm.
Unpack that a little bit, Pastor John.
Yeah, so one of the things that they just mentioned in the book, and we know it, we know that the wealth of the Black community has been stolen in various ways.
Yeah.
It's just seeing it, and not just seeing it in a nebulous way, but seeing it in a systematic way.
Yeah.
Like, to have the system be part of the theft, the system that's supposed to help you be part of the theft,
Yep.
is debilitating for
Yep.
Black and brown people.
Yep.
You and I have talked about the housing market. You know, that's one of the things that we have seen in our country over and over again. I'm sitting here looking in my community, my hometown, where Big Mama's house getting stolen, taken from them through tax sales, and then
Yep.
they're flipping the house $450,000 downtown now. And so that theft is just as systematic as the theft of truth too.
Yeah.
And so we got to think through, how is it that we're going to acknowledge that that theft has happened, because it's been something that has been decades long in the making. And don't complain when we try to get people that wealth that they need. That's part of the reparations that we talked about earlier. Well, the fact that, yes, that is, reparations is wealth based, but it also is based on some of these other things that we've already talked about.
Yeah. Somebody asked the question, Pastor John, are you meaning government when you talk about the system?
Yes.
Yeah.
Government. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I just put in the chat a link that talks about actually housing inequality in the McKinsey research group. They actually, in summation, say that Black homeowners won't catch up at the rate of housing equality for over 300 years unless there is a $1.7 trillion affordable housing plan that is not only voted on, but actually implemented and followed through on. $1.7 trillion.
You know, here's the crazy part, Pastor Christopher. When public housing started in our country, it was and still is, when you talk about Section 8 and public housing, it is majority white.
Yep.
And so this whole trope that African Americans are living off the system, shoot, everybody in our country is living off, quote unquote, the system.
Yep.
Some people just have more advantage in said system. And so this also goes back to my point about chasing whiteness, Pastor Christopher. Because the truth of the matter is that Billy Joe in rural West Virginia is in the same situation and circumstances as Shaniqua in Southside of Chicago. Yet, the chasing of whiteness by Billy Joe does not allow him to see the fact that he is, at least situationally, in a space where he needs to align himself with what needs to happen in our country in order to help people be removed from these quote unquote systems.
Yeah. Have you, we're in a book club, and I'm getting ready to ask, have you read this book? You probably have. It's called The Color of Law.
Absolutely. I got to. I'm a lawyer. So,
yeah.
Rothstein?
Yeah. So,
yes.
So I think for 2025, that needs to be one of our books.
It has to be. It's an amazing. I mean, the stories in there, man, the cities in there, like you can see how it goes about in a systemic way from a legal perspective. The government systematically make sure that folks don't get houses in certain areas.
So to that point, back to the book here, I think, you know, one of the things that has to be acknowledged historically that we don't often have, that we don't often talk about, is the historical integration of policies of oppression. Like part of the justification in my mind of why the conversation about reparations is a necessary, needed one and valid one is because there have been the creation and implementation and passing of legislation, policies, and procedures
Mm.
that have intentionally created the gaps that we see today.
Yep.
And, it's almost like that notion, not almost, but it is that notion of throwing the rock and then hiding your hand and saying, I don't know how we got here.
That's
I
right.
don't know how we got here. So the
Yeah.
history will show us how we got here.
Yeah.
Let me just, I'm on page, really fast, I'm on page 91 of the book.
Okay.
In the late 19th and early 20th century, riots targeting Black communities occurred in cities all over the country. And this blew my mind when I was reading the book and the number of cities that they listed in various spaces, right? Because it wasn't just like your top 5 cities. It was also, all cities in different areas and regions of the country. New Orleans and Memphis, 1866. Pittsburgh, 1886. Denver, 1887. Omaha, 1891. Wilmington, 1898. Little Rock and Atlanta, 1906. East St. Louis, Lexington, and Philadelphia, 1917. Chicago, Baltimore, Omaha, Charleston, Knoxville, 1919. And Little Rock, 1927. Little Rock is here twice. Notice that? To name but a few. Though varied in proximate cause, each of these resulted, and here's the phrase I wanted to get to, resulted in the systematic destruction of the institutions, not just the Black economy, but the institutions of the Black economy.
Yeah. Man, that's so good and so true. All those cities and more. It's not just those cities, right? Those are some of the bigger ones that you've seen some of that, and even the language that people use.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we weren't rioting. Listen, when y'all flying planes and bombing a whole city in Tulsa,
Yep.
that ain't us.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
I saw actually back at the end of last year, so the end of 2023, when I had met and we talked through and prayed through, even what we were going to cover and which books we were going to deal with. And then we landed on, doing this book in Black History Month. It was interesting because just a few days after we made that decision, I came across this historical proof about reparations that somebody else just indicated in the chat there, that I want to pull up really fast. I should have had it already ready for the call before our time together today, but I didn't, so I apologize for that. But I'm going to find it really quickly. And here it is. So the question was asked, why do you think Americans get so angry at the subject of reparations for Black Americans? Do you think Black Americans should receive reparations, and how? And here's the post. 1990, United States provided $1.6 billion, or $20,000 each, to Japanese Americans. 1990, Austria provided $25 million to Holocaust survivors. There's claims of Austria. 1988, Canada provided 250,000 square miles of land to Indians and Eskimos. 1988, Canada provided $230 million to Japanese Canadians. In 1986, the United States provided $30 million as a result of the 1839 treaty to Ottawans of Michigan. 1985, the United States provided $31 million to the Chippewas of Wisconsin. In 1985, the United States provided $12.3 million to the Seminoles of Florida. In 1985, the United States provided $105 million to the Sioux of South Dakota. In 1980, the United States provided $81 million to the Klamaths of Oregon. In 1971, the United States provided $1 billion plus 44 million acres of land. 44 million acres of land to the Alaska Natives land settlement that dealt with different tribes. In 1952, Germany provided $822 million to Holocaust survivors. This was called the German Jewish settlement. So from 1865 to present, the United States has provided $0 for the slavery or Jim Crow era to African Americans or Black descendants.
And even white slave owners, as Eugene said.
The
They
book
wrote
says
it's in the book in
it's
DC.
in the book.
In DC, they got $300 per slave that was freed. They got reparations for freeing us. And then they get mad about giving reparations to us. What in the world? Make this make sense. Make it make sense.
But we mad because a first lady said that the White House was built by slaves.
Yeah.
How dare she say that?
How dare she mention that? How dare she? Brother, this country don't make no sense for some folks. But here's the thing, man. Here's the
We said
thing
this
that
call gonna be an hour, right? Every month. That's what we said.
yeah, I know. Here's the thing, man. This is the beautiful thing about God's grace and all this, man. We've been through it, bro. Our people have been through it. You hear me? And I'm telling you, if there is a resilient people on the face of this earth, man, I don't know if there's a ranking system or what that may be, man, but boy, black folks got to be up there somewhere. And I'm not just saying that because we black, okay? If I'm just trying to look at this objectively, and I'm like, man, if I look at this story and I look at the true story of African descended people in this country, it's like, what?
Can I say something really fast? We might have to edit this out after I say it. If we talk offline and you're like, no, bro, we can't say that yet. We can't say that yet.
Listen, I already done talked about BBL, so hey, who knows?
Here's something I've been thinking about. I wonder if some of what America deals with what Israel is from a biblical promise perspective, not that they have carte blanche to do whatever they want to do, right? I'm not dealing with the genocide part of it, but from a biblical perspective, you cannot hide or deny the spiritual heritage, okay? What Israel is to that part of the world, I wonder if we as Black Americans are to America, and until America does right by Black Americans, it will have to answer for some things. Do you hear my logic?
Man, hey, I hear the logic, and it sounds like it's logicking. That's all I'm saying, man. Listen, I'm not.
My brother, he said it's logic again. and I'm careful about where I say that, bro. I don't even know if I've ever said that publicly outside of a closed room.
Yeah.
That's why I hesitated so much, because that was like, oh, that's like a that could get you canceled.
I know, man. And listen, and we're not saying that in the Black Hebrew Israelite way of saying we're God's chosen people, right?
No.
But there's something to the idea that, man, the fact that the foundation, the very foundation of this nation, was founded on this principle that a group of people were less than another, and that there's been no real reparative work done.
No repentance. Nothing.
None of that.
And I say it from the perspective that we're the only race of people where the word of God has been twisted to justify atrocities. So yeah, to your point, I'm not addressing this as like the Black Hebrew Israelites and cultural cults would do in terms of, oh, you're the chosen people and all that. I'm saying we're the only race of people where literally God's word and will were used to justify atrocities. Like there is literally a slave Bible.
Right. Like a Bible for slaves.
That you took chunks of
all the freedom language removed.
Right. You took chunks of God's word out of in order to keep an entire people group bound up to really assuage your conscience.
That's right. Because I have a clear conscience when I'm beating you every day and got you in these circumstances.
Yeah. We got the comments blowing up over here. Chapter 4 about the church was very deep. Yep. For me, because that's all I knew growing up. And without the church where I learned about God and the Bible, I really didn't know where black folks would be. Very true. Slave Bible took me out. Yep. There's always seemed to be more energy put into us as a people than helping us as a people. I remember a song that says it's not hard to do right. It's just easier to do wrong. Woo! Good
That's
gracious.
right. That's right.
Eugene says, I did not know they took it that far. Absolutely. Our time is getting away from us, Pastor John. We would do this entire thing disservice if we didn't jump over to chapter
We gotta
7.
talk about reparations, bro.
Yeah.
That's what the book is about. So we gotta talk about chapter 7 and the
So-
call to repair.
Yep. The call to
We can't tear stuff up and not repair. Because we done tore some stuff up on here now. So we gotta go and look at what the repairing looks like, which I think is one of the best parts of the book as well. Is like, yeah, you could talk about all that, but then you, as a good preacher, you got to answer that question. So what?
Yeah. You literally took the dignity of an entire population of women on this call today. I'm just gonna say you did that. I'm just gonna say you did that. We ain't looking, you basically said, ain't nobody looking at you. You ain't all that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Do you know who I'm married to? Have you seen who I'm married to? The finest walking with my last name? Do you see the finest walking with my last name? You think
It
I'm
just
looking over at that?
Listen, it just came out, Pastor Christopher. I'm sorry. Ain't nobody got time for that, man. Ain't nobody got time for that. Let's talk about repair, though. Let's talk about reparations, bro.
Ain't nobody here to see you, Otis. Yeah, so let's talk about the practices of repair. So
Yeah, man.
they lay out repairing the truth. That's a powerful, right? And we've got to be, and I'm just going to hit the points for the sake of time.
Yep.
That we've got to repair the truth. We've got to be committed to embracing truth. Here's a point that I thought about while I was reading chapter 7. Now this is going to bother with some people here because this is another theological discussion. This may be, Pastor John, one of the reasons why we see, even in places like Southern Baptist Convention and others, that are resistant to a dormant pneumatology. Because if Jesus says that the Holy Spirit is come to lead and teach you into all truth, cannot be committed to anti-truth and be filled with the Holy Spirit.
Can't. If he's leading you into all truth, that's impossible.
Yep.
It's
Even
impossible.
if it's ugly, the Holy Spirit's going to get you to truth.
Got to, man.
Yeah.
And he says, acknowledge it, recover it,
Yep.
and memorialize it.
And memorialize it. And memorialize it doesn't mean that we just put it in a museum. No, it's living truth.
It's got to live, man. It's got to be living truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then he talks about repairing power. He talks about repairing power. And I thought this was really powerful because, again, to me, the entire book elevates the conversation of reparations. It's not just sending people a check, right?
Yeah.
So that first point, again, about truth. Now we're talking about power. So it's about seeing power, bringing power, enabling power. And, you know, how can I, and I think this is true even in our churches, in our businesses. You know, if you're talking about having a diverse church, having a diverse organization, do you just have people token in the room, or do you give them power? Do you give them influence in how they legislate your organization or direct departments or direct people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Or do you actually concede some of your influence and power to them so that they can be seen as a viable member of the team? I think that's really critical and really important. And even in my role with diverse church jobs, you know, I see that quite a bit where churches, as they're calling me to say, hey, we want a diverse team, but then you can see the wheels turning in the room oftentimes because some of these folks realize, okay, if we bring in a person that fits this job description, that's a thoroughbred, that's a unicorn. And they're not going to be sitting over in the corner just saying yes or master.
Listen, Hey, I'm not sure if you did this growing up. I'm gonna say this real quick, but Thanksgiving we had two tables: adult table, kiddie table.
Absolutely.
Man, here's what happens in organizations all the time. They invite people to have a seat at the table, and then they get in the room and they find themselves at the kiddie table
Yes, sir.
with no voice. They
Yes,
can't be
sir.
part of the adult conversations. You got to sit over there until we talk about race. And then we pull you up a high chair. And then you can give us the baby food. But for the good stuff, for the other stuff, no, you need to go back to the kiddie table.
Well, even to that point though, right? When he talks about repairing the truth, it talks about who we center in the conversation. Because when you do let us talk about race, is it still based upon your level of comfort?
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't make me too uncomfortable.
Right.
That's right.
Here's the point: repairing wealth.
Preparing wealth. Yep.
Repairing wealth. So building capacity for wealth, removing obstacles. Removing obstacles. So to me, this speaks to the whole notion of divestment and then reinvestment in communities and in infrastructure that allows for these communities to be rebuilt and having access. Transferring wealth. I love one of the churches in Chicago. I'm drawing a blank on the name now, and the pastor, I'm looking at his face, but they started this thing that was called justice deposits, where they wanted to they had a call for churches to invest money into Black banks and credit unions so that they increase their deposits and obviously then create stability and wealth in urban core and Black neighborhoods and urban neighborhoods and that kind of thing. So I'm not sure where they are on that, but that was something that came about right after the murder of George Floyd. So
wow.
that when they were talking about transferring wealth and that kind of thing. Yeah. So, man, we're over time.
Yeah, I know, man. Hey, I want to mention this before we close.
Yeah.
I think it's important for me to mention this.
Oh, I'm scared.
No, you shouldn't be scared.
Okay.
I think this is a good way to kind of wrap it up in terms of repairing truth. So today, and again, I don't want to make this time bound, but today is the day that Ahmaud Arbery was killed 4 years ago. On today, February 23rd, 2020. And as you know, I've been doing a lot of work. That's my hometown. He's from my hometown. So I've been doing a lot of work there locally. But when we talk about repairing truth, one of the things that we did as an organization was we submitted a proposal for the removal of the Confederate monument in my hometown, which contributed somewhat to his death because that Confederate monument is a beacon of white supremacy. And so 2 years later, city council meets. We're part of that panel discussion. I'm sitting there talking to people from Daughters of the Confederacy, Sons of the Confederacy, same table, getting frustrated, but still talking. Fast forward, just last summer, they removed the monument. And they have engaged a Black artist who is now going to put up a memorial acknowledging the contributions of Blacks in our community. So acknowledging it, recovering it, memorializing it, it can happen, it can work in even the most country places like my hometown. And I think that's one of the things that we as a people need to understand. We have enough power, even in the most racist places, to be able to come together and retell the story, repair truth, repair power, and repair wealth.
I think that's where we close the gate on the plane, and we're clear for takeoff.
That's it, man. That's it.
Good, man.
Man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate y'all for hanging out with us too. And hey, me and Pastor Christopher do this all the time. We just figured we'd do it in a setting like this, and hopefully it's helpful for y'all. And we appreciate y'all for chiming in. And don't be scared to raise your hand, come up on the stage, come holler at us, talk to us. And it's been good. I think this is a good session. Again, Pastor Christopher, thank you for sharing such a personal story earlier, man. I appreciate you.
I didn't pre-plan to say that, so that had to be.
Yes.
And we're gonna work on the settings to make sure that videos work when people come up and the chat is all on. We figured some of this stuff out along the way. Some of that is back end stuff that we just got to make sure we're doing properly. So
Yep.
this was good. Thank y'all again, as Pastor John said, for being in with us today, and share this with others. Share the platform and the group, the email list and all those things with others. And we'll actually, I'm going to actually take some of the links also that we sent out today on the call, and we'll email it out to everybody also so that you all will have that. And I don't know if Pastor John did his magic and put together a summary for y'all on this or not, but if he didn't, then you'll be all right. You got enough of the book.
I got all my notes, so I can do that. What we got next month before we go?
Next month is about generations.
Speaking across generations.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me make sure I'm saying that properly.
Messages that satisfy boomers, hers, millennials, Gen Zs, and beyond. And that's by, what's his name again?
Daryl Hall.
Daryl Hall. Okay.
Yep.
Looking forward to that, man. Looks like it's going to be a good book. I haven't read it before, so that'd be a new read for me.
There you go. It's going to be good. Yeah. All right, everybody. Have an amazing Friday, an awesome weekend, a good month, and we'll see y'all next month. Peace.